All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mocktail Minutes. This is Bailey.
And this is Brianna.
Every episode, we're starting with a little mocktail drink. And this morning, we're recording at a different time. So it's actually my breakfast. And this goes with our topic for the week. So I'm doing a smoothie this morning. I did it with a Aloha pre-made protein shake. Yeah. Protein shake. And I did the mocha iced coffee flavor. I think that's what it is. It's like their iced coffee one. Really tasty. It's one of the best pre-made shake drinks that I found that has quality ingredients, has 20 grams of protein. So I did that in my smoothie, some banana, flaxseed, peanut butter, and collagen. So that's my mocktail / breakfast smoothie.
I like it. That's smart. I should have done a smoothie. I'm just having water with my faithful Jigsaw electrolytes in there this morning. I'm going for a girls' weekend to Austin. So I'm like, I need to hydrate.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm hydrating and yeah, that's it. But I think I'm going to try to do like a protein drink or something next week because I keep getting questions on what's a good ready-made protein or like what protein brand should I use? So maybe I'll start.
Yes. And I like to use them, especially for vacations and everything, because there's something that you don't have to refrigerate. You just bring them with you. So I like the Aloha brand. I like Happy Viking. And there's another one. It starts with a K. I actually found it in the airport when I was in Georgia. I think it's like, I don't remember. It starts with a K. It's like a plant-based protein shake. That was pretty good.
Yeah. I'm going to try some out for you guys. We'll get the name of the K one too.
Yeah, the K one. They have it at Target too, so that could help.
Oh, perfect.
On the options, maybe.
I'm always at Target. So
yes. And before we get into today's episode, you graduated. So we have to
I did. I graduated. I'm done. I finished all my requirements for my internship. So now I just have to sit for the RD exam.
Yes, the lovely exam that you study for like weeks for.
Yeah, that one. So that's my goal. Like these next couple weeks, just only focus on studying and then go take it and be done with it.
So everyone send Brianna good study vibes, good test taking vibes.
I need it because I get test anxiety. Anxiety. So
me too. And it is like a high stress situation because you go in there and you have to like get checked for everything. You can't wear a hoodie. You can't have all these extra things. I'm like, I get really cold, but okay. And for mine, it was kind of during COVID still. So then they were extra cautious about everything, like your mask and
I can't breathe.
Yeah.
Like so stressed. Yeah.
It's a lot and it's very stressful and yeah, good luck.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. I'm mentally preparing myself just for that, just for like how the testing environment is. Cause I've heard it's nerve wracking, which is.
Yeah, just the environment. And it's kind of like map testing on steroids, I guess.
Yeah. And it's on the computer. And so you know right away if you passed. And I don't know if that's better or worse. Okay. So what are we talking about today?
Yes, we're talking about, I think, one of our favorite subjects to talk about, blood sugar control. And I guess this is our favorite mainly because I think it's kind of a misconstrued. Is that a good word for it? Topic where people are like blood sugar control equals diabetes. Yes. Or it has to do with people who have diabetes. But what I have really learned and all this information I've gathered, I think in the last 2 years, everyone needs to learn blood sugar balance.
Yes. It's not just one of those things that, I mean, you're right. People think, oh, I don't need to worry about that because I don't have diabetes or have gestational diabetes or, I'm young, whatever. But everybody can benefit from blood sugar balance, and really having unmanaged blood sugar is really what can lead to diabetes and stuff later on. So you want to be preventative about it just because living with diabetes can be stressful, but also you feel so much better when you balance your blood sugar. Like this is how you get your body to work optimally and to feel your best. So like, that's like saying, I don't need to drink water because I'm not dehydrated. Well, like eventually you will be, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, everybody needs it.
Everyone needs to do it. And as I had learned more about this is where I really started to adjust my meals. And it really made so much of a difference because I was Like my boyfriend used to make fun of me. He's like, you eat every 2 hours. I'm like, I'm just hungry. I don't know. Like supposed to rev up your metabolism, I guess. That's not true, by the way. And so, yeah, I was eating every 2 hours and I would always I always called it my panic mode because I would get super hungry. And then it was like, I couldn't function. I could not think to just get through whatever I was trying to do because I would just get so hungry. It was my blood sugar dropping. And it wasn't like I was eating terrible food. Like I would have a snack and it would be an apple or something like that. It's not like bad food. It was just my blood sugar. So kind of getting into this more, your blood sugar levels, if you're unsure of what exactly we're talking about, your blood sugar levels is basically the sugar that is just present in your blood. And it's going to be affected by your food you eat, your lifestyle, your hormones, your genetics. And the sugar, it's going to be your primary fuel source for the body. So it's going to affect your brain. It's going to affect your adrenals, your pancreas, your liver, energy, mood, hormones, heart, eyes, kidneys, and it's even going to affect how we store fat. So I think that's something that it's a big turning point where we don't realize how much sugar, like we need it, but we can easily overdo it. And it really does affect so many different things in our body.
Yes. And before going forward, just to clarify, because a lot of people will hear sugar and they automatically think, oh, this is just like added sugar or it's sweets or okay. Sugar is glucose and glucose is introduced to your body by the foods we eat. So carbohydrates mainly is, it turns into sugar in your body. This is okay. So before anybody like freaks out and they're like, oh my gosh, sugar, this is good. Your brain needs it. Your body needs sugar to run. That's your fuel source. But we want to help you guys know how to better manage it. So before you check out and you're like, oh, I don't eat sugar, so like no big deal. No, like sugar is sugar. So
we all eat sugar and you should, because you would feel absolutely terrible if you didn't eat any sugar. And I'm honestly like not sure how you would eat enough all day long. Like that would be really hard.
It would be hard because you actually need quite a bit of carbohydrates to function correctly. So I don't know. I don't know how people do it.
Yeah. So we're not saying like cut out sugar, and we're not talking about just added sugar. This is any type of carbohydrate. This is your bread, your pasta, your rice, your quinoa, your apples, grapes, oranges. There's carbs in vegetables and dairy and nuts and seeds. Like the carbs are found in a lot of places.
Yes.
And something like you can do to kind of test this out is if you take a piece of bread, and if you've ever chewed bread for a really like long time where it gets mushy and gross and slimy in your mouth, you can actually feel it. It almost gets sweeter. Have you ever done that before?
I have. We did that in one of our food science, thing.
Yeah.
Like, chew on this bread. And you're like, oh. And then, you taste it. It starts to get like sweeter.
Yeah, that's because like the bonds are breaking between the starches. It's breaking down into that glucose. It's broken down by amylase, which is an enzyme. It's a whole normal process in the body. And something when we start talking about carbs, keto always comes up when I talk about this with anyone. So I do not recommend the keto diet. This is not what I'm saying. The keto diet, it is very low carb. So really anything under 100, I believe, 100 grams of carbs is considered low carb. But with keto, it's less than 50 grams of carbs for your day.
Which is very low.
Yes. And this is why people experience like keto flu when they start doing this type of diet, because you are drastically decreasing the amount of carbs you're eating. So then the carbs are your primary energy source. So now you're going to have a headache, brain fog, fatigue. You're going to be pretty irritable. You might get a little nauseous. You're going to have trouble sleeping, constipation probably because there's fiber with a lot of your carbohydrate foods. Muscle soreness, like we need some glycogen, cravings, like lots of things can happen when we go keto. It's a whole nother story. We should probably do a whole episode on it.
We should. And honestly, obviously not everything in the nutrition world is correct or up to date. Like we know that. But when you look at the leading cause of death in America, it's still heart disease. So I don't really understand why we're like, let's have a diet that's extremely high in fat. and low in carbs. So, your body's number one like choice for fuel. Like it's just, and I think people are really protective over keto. And I honestly think because it's hard, it's really freaking hard to do keto. So people want it to be right. You don't want to like spin your wheels and do something that's really hard, and not for it to work. But little background on keto, it was literally created for children and people who have epilepsy. So it was thought, okay, if we starve the brain, there will be less overactivity in the brain, and people that have seizures will have less seizures. And it worked.
Mm-hmm.
But that should tell you right there, this is not a great way for you to be eating if you don't have epilepsy. And if you do, I don't recommend that you do keto unless it's like, under supervision of a dietitian and a doctor and all that. But it was literally created to starve your brain.
Yeah.
We don't need that.
Exactly.
We don't need to starve our brains.
And I actually, so when I was doing my internship, I was on like the keto, it wasn't a keto unit. It was like neuro disorders. And she worked with a lot of pediatrics who had epilepsy. So there was quite a few that were on the keto diet, and it was helping. So it was really cool to see that play out. But with this keto diet, it's very hard to follow. Like these kids were having to drink MCT oils or heavy cream like by themselves. And it might sound great because you're like, oh, I can just eat bacon all day long. Yeah. That's not what the keto diet is. It's very hard to actually do. Yeah, we're going to do a whole episode on this.
We are. I think now that we're like talking, like we're going to do it because I have so much more to say on this topic.
Yes.
So stay tuned for keto.
Yes. But yeah, moving forward with the blood sugar. So like Brianna was saying, we need carbohydrates in our body. It's a normal process. To kind of explain this process, so we're eating food. Your food is going to break down to glucose, like those carbohydrates are going to break down to glucose. And then when this happens, your pancreas is going to release insulin. So then that glucose can be kind of allowed into the cells to be used as energy. But this process only happens so fast. So kind of think of this as like an assembly line. Like if you have someone who has to put, I don't know, the product on the conveyor belt to keep it moving, but the person behind them is just going super duper fast and just loading them up. That person who has to put the product on the belt is going to get really behind. Their back's going to hurt because they're going way too fast. They're not moving properly. Like
not going to be as effective, as efficient. Yeah.
Yes. We're going to get really bogged down. So then if we have too much going on, that's when we have like a blood sugar spike, or if we're having a really like a high carbohydrate meal or a carb-based meal, we're going to have a blood sugar spike. And then if we have a spike, we're also going to have a drop. So why does this matter? Brianna, do you want to touch on that?
Yes. So this matters because that really high spike and then really low dip, because your blood sugar does not return back to baseline. So what happens when you're working really, really hard to get that sugar from the blood into your cells, you don't return back to baseline. Your insulin eventually catches up, does its job, and then you have a dip in blood sugar. And those really high spikes and low dips are going to affect your energy. It's also going to affect weight loss. It's going to affect focus, your appetite, and it can even affect like other issues down the road. So prolonged spikes and dips and whatever in blood sugar can lead to issues with your heart. It can lead to kidney disease, kidney problems, eye problems. Basically, essentially, we're talking about diabetes and insulin resistance. But the way that we eat is going to really affect our energy. And this is something that I think clients really see the benefit of eating a balance. Like when they start to eat like more balanced, they see this instantly. Oh my gosh, I have more energy. I don't have those afternoon slumps. I don't have these intense sugar cravings, because you are balancing your blood sugar better and you aren't having those up and downs. So our bodies, a lot of people, and this, I see this a lot of people are like, I really just crave sugar all the time, or I crave sweets. Like, what is this? And when you're constantly doing that up and down, when your blood sugar dips, you are going to have more sugar cravings, because it sends off this alert in your body. Oh my gosh, hey, we need energy. Our blood sugar is too low. Our body is like Goldilocks. It wants to be perfect. It's going to start panicking. And the quickest way for your blood sugar to rise back up is to have sugar. So if you dip below, your body's going to freak out and be like, oh my gosh, give me sugar. I need energy. I need to survive. And then you're going to have those cravings. And then, so you're going to have more sugar or more carbohydrates or more food. And then you're going to be on this roller coaster all day. So you're going to be high, and then you're going to come down, and then you're going to eat a bunch more so that your body will be happy, but then you're going to spike it again. And it's this roller coaster, and eventually you just feel like crap.
Yes. And think about this too. We're usually not just craving a chicken leg or something like that.
Yeah. Now it goes, yeah.
We're not craving chicken legs or anything like that because our brain knows that when our blood sugar is dropping, we need more energy. We're going to get that
protein isn't going to give us a ton of glucose.
Yes.
In that moment. It's going to be cookies. It's going to be pastries, you know, it's going to be soda, chips. It's going to be, I don't know, think of anything like really carbohydrate-y. And then I think that's where people really start to make a connection of like, oh my gosh, carbohydrates are so bad. And I just have no control over them. And I eat too much of them. And I just need to cut them all out. And then eventually they have the same issue because if you do not eat enough carbohydrates, your body will compensate and create more glucose. So
and it's going to be begging for more.
Yeah, it's going to be begging for more. And you're just going to feel like crap. So basically, don't be scared of carbs. But also there's a way that you can balance your blood sugar and feel good and not be on this roller coaster all day. So tell us how we do that.
So how we're going to do this is thinking about the food first. So I'll give you like 2 little food takeaways. Number 1, no naked carbs. Now, this does not mean all the time, and we teach you more about this, like if you work with us, but in general, no naked carbs. You want to combine those with protein, fat, and then prioritize these high fiber carbs. So to break this down, protein is going to be your eggs, fish, meat, poultry. That's your protein. Your fat, and we want to do like high omega-3s. Those are going to be really great to include in your diet. So like olive oil, nuts, avocado, we can do cheese. Any types of these fats are going to be helpful. And then when we're thinking about high fiber carbs, this is going to be your fruits, your vegetables, beans, lentils, whole grains. And then we kind of have like bonus items like chia seeds and flax seeds. So doing these type of food combos, not just doing carbs by themselves, are really going to help with that blood sugar control. And that's really what people see when they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not hungry all day long, is having these types of combos. And then I think the second thing would be having consistent meals, just so your body kind of learns to expect when to have food. If we're having breakfast one morning at like 6 a.m. and then it's like 10 a.m. and then 9:15. We're kind of all over the place, and maybe we skip lunch one day. Our body's not going to learn what to expect. So we need to kind of give it a heads up like, hey, you can count on me to give you some food.
Yeah, don't panic. I'm going to consistently fuel you. Our bodies really like that. That's what it likes. So, you know, that's my other problem with people dieting is like, you're freaking your body out more. Food isn't the problem. It's how you're eating food and probably the lack of enough food, to be honest.
Yeah. Yes.
And then going like beyond the food. So something like daily movement, you know, walks are fantastic. So anything that can help your muscles and your like body really just utilize the glucose that you have in it. This is honestly so different for everyone, but walking and strength training are both going to be a really good way to help you have better blood sugar management. In fact, when we do strength training, we actually increase the number of receptors on the muscle cell that brings in glucose. So you're actually being more effective at bringing that glucose in, using it, storing it, whatever you need.
Well, with that being said too, so kind of think about the insulin receptors and everything. So we also have insulin sensitivity that we want to think about. And when we bring this up, this is basically how your body listens and communicates with insulin. So we want our bodies to be sensitive because then it's going to react to this blood sugar and it's going to shuffle that sugar to where it needs to go. It's going to go to work, and kind of think about that as like a sensitive person. You're going to react to more things. You're going to react more quickly. But if your blood sugar levels are just always all over the place, insulin becomes less responsive and therefore less effective. So something to think about there.
You want it to work effectively. You don't want it to constantly be in a state of chaos.
Yeah.
Another thing that really helps with this is sleep. So getting at least 7 hours of sleep. If you are, you know, post-menopause, this is going to be like a non-negotiable 7 to 8 hours at least. So this just helps again with that insulin sensitivity. We have less blood sugar control on days that we have gotten less sleep. So the less sleep you get, the worse blood sugar management you have. It's just all over the place. So sleep is something that you can do right now to like improve your blood sugar.
And you have less blood sugar control because you become less insulin sensitive.
Yep. And then lastly, and this is a big one, and I know Cara talks about this a lot, but manage daily stressors. So this has to do with cortisol, which again, we're going to dive into. So I won't touch too much on that, but managing your stress can drastically help with your blood sugar management. So it's not just food. And I think that's another common misconception. And I see it all the time, like in the hospital when, you're giving like diabetes education, it's only food. It's like food. And really there's so many other things that you could do that impact your blood sugar. So yeah. So signs, if you're like listening and you're like, okay, am I properly managing my blood sugar? Like what's going on? So signs of imbalanced blood sugar would be irritable, that hangry feeling. And we all know what that's like I'm hangry. I need food now, basically. That constant craving for carbs specifically, not being able to focus, blurry vision, lightheaded, fatigue, hormone imbalance, and then weight loss resistance. So this is a big one. If you're someone who's maybe been dieting for a really long time and working out and you're like, I'm dieting, I'm working out, I'm doing all the right things, and you're having a lot of weight loss resistance, your blood sugar is probably a major reason for that.
This is what I find with my clients that come to me. They're like, I eat really well, but I still can't lose weight. It's a lot of times because it's that blood sugar balance and they're not eating enough protein because yes, eating your fruits and vegetables is amazing. But if you are only eating fruits and vegetables, we're missing out on that a lot of times and we're missing out on protein. So we really need to have all these components. Yeah. And so talking about this, I actually read, I don't know where I read it from. I read it somewhere that restaurants started serving bread as like the free appetizer because it bumps your blood sugar. It gives it that spike. So then you have your meal. And then I guess like the theory was that when your blood sugar is decreasing, your body's gonna be like, oh, and now I really want dessert. So it's supposed to like drive dessert sales. It's like, interesting.
It's not a bad marketing, like hey, or not marketing, but how do we drive up sales?
Yeah.
If you think about it, actually that's very interesting. I want to know where you read that because I want to read whatever else.
I want to know where I read that.
No. And this is, yeah. I love that you brought up like, okay, you need to be eating other stuff because I see this so much, women, especially, and men, but I work with mostly women. Their go-to is like, I must be eating too much. Mm-hmm. That's what the problem is. I'm eating too much. And if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, that's me, I'm eating too much. You're probably not. You're probably eating unbalanced. And so I would kind of challenge you to like, look at your next meal and see if you have a good source of protein on your plate. See if you have fiber on your plate. See if you have a little bit of like a high fiber starchy carb on your plate. Like, what do you do you have fat on your plate? Make sure you're eating balanced because I promise you like 9 times out of 10, you're not eating too much. You're probably not eating enough, or you're missing out on a whole component of a meal. Every meal should be balanced. And obviously you're not going to eat perfectly 100% of the time. There's going to be plenty of times where your meal is unbalanced, but really striving to be consistent with those balanced plates, it's going to really help you feel your best. And you'll be surprised how much food you actually need.
Yes. Oh, that reminds me. So last episode, I mentioned that I would track my calories and everything for you guys because I get all the questions. I was right. So I did it for one day this week and I ate like 1,900 calories that day. And it was terrible. I hated doing it. It was so time consuming just to put everything in there. And I was like, doing it for you guys. So you're welcome. But yeah, I eat 1,900 calories. It was an average day for me. And it was actually cool too, to kind of be like, okay, yeah, I am hitting my protein. I'm hitting my fiber goals and everything else. So, I mean, that was nice to see. And I was like, oh yeah, I am doing what I thought. So yes, I did do it for you guys.
And you probably felt great. And that's the thing is women are constantly just like torturing themselves for needing to eat. And I can't tell you how many clients I've worked with. I mean, in metabolism makeover, of course, but I really see it when I work with one-on-one. Women are like, I'm eating more food than I've ever eaten in my life. And I'm actually losing weight and I feel really good. And I'm like, yes. That's it, So don't be scared to eat. try to balance your plate. And this is something that both Bailey and I can help you with. I mean, whether you do metabolism makeover or you work with us one-on-one, like this is something that we focus a lot on because it is so individualized. You know, we're not going to be like, oh, here's your calorie like count and don't go over this and do that. No, we're going to be like, hey, let's look at your meals. Let's identify what you need. Are you fueling yourself correctly? Because when you do, you're going to have better blood sugar management. And then everything else kind of follows. So I like to say like blood sugar is like your foundation for almost anything. It's your foundation for gut health, for hormone health, for, you know, sleep. Yeah, it's literally, it affects everything. So if you can manage your blood sugar, everything else will be much easier to do and you'll just feel better doing it. Hands down.
Yes. So we left you with like 5 key takeaways, tips that you can use and literally start today or tomorrow for some of them. Getting protein on your plate, getting fat on your plate, high fiber carbs, have consistent meal times, see where you can add in some movement to your day, get to bed. We hear that all the time, but like seriously, sleep is so important. Sleep and breakfast are very important in my world. Yeah. And
that's
then
it. Like, let's focus on that.
Yes, sleep and breakfast. Just focus on that for a while and it'll make so much of a difference. I should do like a competition or like a challenge that we just look at sleep and breakfast and that's a good idea.
That'd be fun.
Okay. I'm going to think about
like, how much better do you feel after this amount of time of just doing those 2 things?
Okay. Stay tuned. I'm going to put that in the works. I'm going to add it to my to-do list because this is who I am as a person. I just like to add things to my to-do list. It makes me feel better when I have all these things to do, which is not a great thing. Don't follow that. It means that I'm avoiding other things in my life.
Yeah. So manage your stress.
Yeah.
That would be the last one. Maybe don't do what Bailey does. I do the same thing too, though. I always have like a list and then I feel so good when I cross it off. But I feel like I have to add something to it when I cross it off, which again, don't follow that.
We're a work in progress.
Like if Lindsay were to hear this, she'd be like, what are you guys doing?
Yep, 100%.
I know.
Yeah. And then also with my to-do list, if it wasn't on my list, but I did do it, I will write it down and then cross it off because it feels really nice.
So it feels so gratifying. I love it. But yes, so you guys try these 5 tips. And then also this week, we have a bonus episode about wearing a continuous glucose monitor and questions that you guys submitted about that. And we have a guest speaker that's going to come on and specifically talk about a CGM. And like, this is what she does every day. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear about that.
Yeah, it'll be a very helpful episode. So check it out after you listen to this one. I would say listen to this one first. I mean, I guess if you are listening to this one right now, you are listening to it first.
And if you're listening to it second,
well, too late.
Maybe you're like, oh, it probably would have made more sense. Whatever.
But yeah, we have a bonus episode this week. And then next week we are jumping into cortisol and belly fat. So you guys are going to love it. We say this on every episode, but yeah, we're talking about what you guys want to talk about.
Yeah, these are the questions. We're tackling things that we hear all the time. So I know somebody listening is like, yes, this is my question, or I have this issue, or hey, that might be me. So feel free to reach out to us if we haven't touched on something that you really want to know about, because we're here for you.
Yes. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your week. You're listening, then it's Thursday if you're listening to the release day. So one more day till Friday, and I hope everyone has a great weekend too.
Yes, we'll see you guys later.
Bye, everyone.